As Canadian communists demand that every Canadian stop buying American products, I don't believe that they think their way through the Marxist ideology. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. A group of Amazon employees working in Laval decided that they were going to form a union, and then as a result, they're saying that Amazon elected to leave the entire province. There's some stuff that they say that clearly indicates they've been led astray by some foolish talk about socialism and Marxism and how they're all going to rise up and turn Canada into Cuba or China, both of which have terrible working conditions. However, before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to the super thanks that have come in over the past few days. Smitty6533 said thanks. I say thank you in return. Catherine Young, 28, thanks. Keep exposing the truth in your calm and accurate way. Appreciate the content. Well, I appreciate both the support and the encouragement, Catherine. Shortsack, 72, just want to chip in a few nickels as a thank you, Sterling. Never change, brother. Well, Shortsack, I am not a proud man. I appreciate every nickel. Thank you very much. One of my big supporters and members, actually, is Wiccan in 1969. Cheers, brother. Well, cheers right back. It's good to hear from you. Sandman67T6U said thanks. I thank you. J Papillon47 said thanks. And again, I say thank you. And Smitty6533 gave an additional super thanks, which I will say again, I appreciate all of the support.
This morning we're calling for a Canada and Quebec-wide boycott of the corporate supervillains, Amazon. We hope it'll spread across English Canada and even to the United States. Why? Because they are union busters. They're attacking workers.
Did this individual actually use the term corporate supervillains like we were in some kind of a Marvel movie? Maybe she should stop watching movies and come into the real world.
Amazon workers are the ones who make profit for the American multinational. It is because of our work that Bezos and his crew can go into space on his rocket ship, as he said himself. Our work creates profit, and this is why I am here to say, to call on the solidarity of the working class in Canada and in Quebec. We run the economy.
Well, there was all kinds of Marxist ideological claptrap in that little statement. Let me begin by saying you do not drive the economy. The economy is driven by business, it's driven by industry, in your own words. And yet you want to tell yourself that somehow you are this integral cog and without you, none of it works. You might want to believe that. And yet at the same time, you're up here saying that Amazon left the province because they don't need you to turn a profit. That's how significant and integral you are to the economy. They left you in a heartbeat.
We at the Boycott campaign ask, are you with the Canadian workers or against them? Do you work for the people or do you work for the oligarchs? If you are not mere tools of economic elites, show it, prove it, join the movement, call for a boycott, support the demands of the worker and their struggle. It's the time where we see where each politician in Canada stand. Are they with the workers or with the bosses?
I just can't stand it when people do that. Like, if you don't agree with me, then you must be against me. And then when I say to you that I don't agree with you, so you must be against me, all of a sudden you want to look around for your friends and say, oh, my position is more virtuous than yours. I don't believe in Marxism. I can point to 25 countries on this earth right now that follow Marxism, and every single last one of them are flat broke. They have hyperinflation and horrible strength in their dollar.
So Amazon comes to Quebec, opens 7 warehouses, creates working conditions that are unbearable, that are very difficult for the workers. The workers decide to, there's a group of workers in one warehouse in the suburb of Montreal, in Laval, that decides to make a union. And instead of following the law and negotiating a good faith with the union, Amazon decides to close all the warehouses of the province, putting at least 4,500 people out of work.
Wow. So if I'm hearing you correctly, a group of you got together in Laval and put 4,500 people out of work because the business elected to leave the province of Quebec. And if I do the math quickly, you say there were 7 locations and 4,500. That's roughly 650 people per building. So you were in a region that employed 650 people. And then, as a result of your actions, 3,900 other people lost their jobs. They weren't part of the Laval location. And yet, because of your actions, the rest of them lost their jobs. So you and your behavior put 4,000 people out of work. And now you want sympathy for it?
And over 40 organizations, including municipalities, that have announced that they will no longer buy from Amazon. This is costing Amazon millions of dollars already and will continue to cost them millions of dollars. Our movement is a real one, and it's actually happening on the ground. We must refute the attack of the American imperialists, and we must say no to American arrogance.
More Marxist claptrap, American imperialists. I'm not even sure what she thinks she means by that, because you want to turn a profit, you're an imperialist? Or do you feel that the business should operate at a loss, and that somehow is going to give you a good paying job? The naivete and the gaslighting attempt trying to convince me that municipalities and organizations are no longer going to be spending any money at Amazon when they probably have contracts that Amazon fulfills, especially in the case of the municipalities. It's not like the municipality cuts you a check, right? There's a billing process that they get they get the stuff from the supplier, in this case, according to her, Amazon, and then the supplier sends a bill and an invoice, and all of that stuff lands on somebody's desk, and that desk then issues the money or the payments to said organization, and then all of that is often done under contract. Now, I get that maybe the individual person behind the desk is not going to go home and shop at Amazon, but I don't believe for one second that municipalities who are always on a tight budget are going to all of a sudden be looking for a more expensive source for paper and pens and all of the other things that may go along with running a city. That's just one part of it. And then she wants you to believe that it's a grassroots organization and that it's growing and it's costing millions of dollars. And yet here you are on the TV. If it was grassroots, you wouldn't need to go on to the Canadian press and beg for them to spread your message. You wouldn't need to stand there saying, "Oh, look, rest of Canada, get in line with us." If it was grassroots. I mean, grassroots indicates that if you put a little bit of grass, it just keeps growing, right?
I want to begin this morning by thanking everyone who stood up to defend our nation from the oligarchs and the rising tyranny and fascism that we're seeing coming out of the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, the Donald Trumps, the J.D. Vances.
I imagine when Charlie Angus is all alone and making plans for his day, he sort of envisions himself as a Che Guevara or one of these, rebels who are going to lead the people to the communist utopia, the Marxist utopia that we can point to in any number of countries is not anything but a dream. There's no reality to it. But I don't think that stops him. I think he just imagines himself being carried around on the shoulders of all of the people for his standing up to the oligarchs.
Tomorrow is the national boycott of all things American and capitalist American. But the boycott of Amazon has to be more than one day. It has to be a total, full-on boycott.
That's an interesting logic you got there, MP Angus. Because 650 people got together in Laval and decided to form a union, which resulted in Amazon pulling out of their entire province and putting 3,900 people out of work, your solution is to try to put the rest of the people that work at Amazon and all of the people that are connected with that and all of the businesses that supply product to Amazon out of work as well. That's a great idea.
Where is the Liberal government right now?
In all likelihood, they're hanging out with the NDP looking for ways that they can spend Canadian tax dollars on Amazon.
I'm asking everyone in this country to support the boycott to ensure that Amazon doesn't get one more dime out of us.
Again, you want to put all of the Amazon employees in Canada out of work at a time when Canadians are struggling to make ends meet, at a time when the economy is terrible, with one of the most affordable businesses on the world. That's genius. I'm surprised you weren't the finance minister.
I worked for 2 years in an Amazon warehouse. I think what it really boils down to is Amazon sets up its working system so that as soon as you're punched in, you're working intensely every minute. that you're punched in. It's the way they set up their algorithm to watch over us during our work. It's the way they design their conveyors, their system of package manipulation. It's really a system that is designed really to juice the workers.
So if I understand you correctly, your biggest grievance with Amazon is that they went ahead and developed and devised a system that doesn't allow for you to waste any of their time and as a result waste any of their money. Now, if it was your money, you wouldn't want to waste it. So why would you think that they would want to waste their money? This is what you're describing is nothing that a McDonald's employee doesn't go through every day. This is simply the McDonald's business model. It's about efficiency. It's about proficiency. And it was so terrible. The conditions were so horrible that you worked there for 2 years. Yeah, no, it's all making perfect sense.
If we want this precedent to be in the favor of the working class, the labor movement has to fight. We are calling on the working class to fight. We're also calling on the labor movement of Canada to unite and give a strong response to this attack. Amazon and the other American multinationals, that if you do something like that, the price will be far steeper than what you originally expected.
You think that all of the workers should unite and follow the example that you set, where you united and then cost every person in your company in Quebec their job. In addition, you feel that that's showing Amazon how much money it's costing them. They thought so little of your contribution to their organization that goes into, many countries all over the world. They had such contempt and disdain for your contribution to their organization that they shut down the building that you were working in, and they shut down 6 other buildings and left the province entirely with all of those gigantic warehouses, with all of the investment in those conveyor belts just sitting there collecting dust. Do you imagine in your mind that those conveyor belts installed themselves? Did they come with the building? The initial investment for those 7 buildings was probably quite substantial by the time you consider the amount of logistics, the amount of people that would have had to install it all before you were even considered to be hired. Right? That would have been technicians installing all of that stuff who make more than the guy standing at the end of the conveyor belt putting a box on a pallet. That would have all transpired before you ever showed up for work. Before they probably even thought about, putting out feelers for who might want to work there. Then all of the trucks that would have had to supply the initial products. Then the individuals that would have had to show them how the conveyor belts work, in addition to the amount of people that would have had to maintain the conveyor belts. I mean, if you think that all of those moving parts are just going to work forever, you've got another thing coming. Yeah, no, you are showing Amazon. You really showed them. You could tell by the way that they left the province and didn't care what happened to you. Now, if you want to talk like a communist, I guess you can talk like a communist. But the company that you worked for, they were not communists. They were, in fact, capitalists. And you can try to paint them in any kind of Marxist word you want by saying American industrialists or American imperialists or any of a dozen words that you probably copied from your coffee house socialism and told yourself that you were going to. Ironically, what's ironic about that is how you told yourself that you were going to be the strongest and most powerful worker of all the workers. It's a bit weird. Nonetheless, you told yourself that you were going to take on this group of capitalists who simply took out a calculator and decided whether or not how they were going to make more money and which way was going to be more profitable. They didn't think about socialism at all. They certainly didn't consider Marxism or communism. They simply said, well, there's more money if I can just leave the province and I'll ship it in from all of the surrounding areas, thus putting 4,500 people out of work. And your solution to that is to put all of the rest of the people that work for Amazon out of work. Yeah, that's socialism in a nutshell, isn't it? That's Marxism in a nutshell, isn't it? Let's all go out of work, and that'll show the companies that they can't do anything to us like pay us a wage and give us a lunch break and follow all of the local bylaws or regulations around employees. Yeah, we're going to teach those guys. How dare they come up with a business model, look for suppliers, find a website, give all the people that look after all of that stuff, all of the jobs, look after all of the various supplies that come into the company, all of the truck drivers, all of the aftermarket, the delivery guys, all of these people. How dare they get in the way of your socialism, your Marxism? Yeah, I can understand why you want to boycott Amazon. It must sting enormously knowing that they abandoned the province in a heartbeat the second that you did something that they didn't agree with. And you sit there and tell yourself that your socialism is going to be stronger than the capitalism. It's really not. And the reason that it's not is because people are hungry and they are feeling the pinch of all of the liberal, far left, socialist, Marxist ideology that has gotten them to this point so far. What they want is a break. They want to relax. They want to not worry about anything about money and finances. And we are a long way from that. And certainly by trying to dismantle one of the largest organizations on earth, one of the largest corporations of suppliers of retail on the planet, we're certainly not going to be doing ourselves any favors, not to mention the amount of jobs. There's 4,500 people were employed in Quebec. That means there were probably 2,000 additional jobs picked up in Ontario, upstate, Vermont, New York, and New Brunswick to compensate for all of those jobs that are no longer in the province of Quebec. Of course, you wouldn't understand that because they don't teach you that in the Marxist ideology. They don't teach you about, basic mathematics, and they don't teach you that when the person is making the money at the top, that is because they come up with the idea that they implemented, and they went through a lot of steps, and they borrowed a lot of money, and they talked to a lot of other people, and all of that stuff gets lost on you because you don't have the concept of manufacturing the job. All you can do is show up to somebody else's idea of a job and then say, hey, I don't like the way you are running this job, so let me run the job for you. And as a result, everybody's out of a job. Oh yeah, Marxism. Yeah, it's a great idea. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.